Goes live right in the middle of a big sneeze. All right, cool. Thanks for that. Actually, I like this better. I think next time I'll leave that light off. The overhead light, I think, does a little too much light. Whew. That sneeze just blew my brains out. Alrighty, so contemplating we're working on a video short this time. I don't even know what I'm going to do yet. I've been so busy thinking about other things that I haven't even gotten around to it yet. I can pull up a list of stuff that I was thinking of doing at some point. No, I don't even think I had that worked out, did I? Documents. Nope. YouTube live. Shoot. I had an idea for a video short based on some mental health stuff that I thought would be funny to do. What else do I got? No, that was... that'd be a weird one to try to do. Yeah, I'm a little late today because I had a game night with some people that I haven't met before. It was definitely a weird one for me. I've been very secluded lately, removed from the world, and so I was exploring social interaction for the first time in what feels like a long time. Had a little bit of fun though. Okay, so those are non-fiction book ideas there. Travel. Man, I thought I had more ideas somewhere. I must have something somewhere for video shorts. Nope. Not finding anything on my list here. Treasure hunters. Nope. Travel plans, training, things I learned. How's Signal getting through right now? We're doing a lot of reloading. Oh, I wanted to do at one point one of the ones I was thinking of doing was, for video shorts was I had an idea for one that was sort of like playing out the example of how one gradually gives up on dreams to be a practical human being. It's a little kind of not morbid, but depressing. I had one where the reason art is important was on those days where you're just so, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, get back to that one. I had an idea for a video where somebody sort of sitting in their car and then just gets out and starts walking and does a sort of like a walk across the country kind of moment, and time doesn't seem to be moving. And they're walking through still time, and they get to their destination, and they start to reveal the whole meaning of the story. And that one would be a little hard to do. I might be able to do it with one person. I think it would be better if you could have at least a family of actors. I had an idea for a video at one point where somebody's dealing with like a seeming horror video where somebody's anxious or panicked and something's going on, and they're inside the house scared of what's going on outside the house, only to realize it's something more along the lines of their paranoia settled in. I had an idea for a video at one point of that one would require more special effects and several voice actors at least, and a few actors. It's a science fiction based in a universe that I sort of world built at one point. The health and well-being video that I was working on was on those days where you just can't believe yourself. I don't know how to say that right, but like those days where you doubt everything, that you know nothing you're going to do is going to matter, and nothing will ever, you'll never achieve anything with your life in a moment. And like in those days, sometimes you just have to get up, and even if it's, you know, I can't make myself eat a stupid breakfast. And some days, just make a stupid breakfast. And so there was a sort of a comedic approach to that one that would be kind of fun to do. That one might be easier to do because it really only involves me. I suppose I could do some skits of videos where I play all the roles with just silly little makeup routines and stuff like that. I mean, I could come up with a couple of ideas like that, I think. I still think the stupid one would be fun to do. But I feel like if I want to do that one right, I have to find multiple sets to do stuff on. And it's going to take a lot more work. I guess I could take some stories from my life and skit them out as short skits. And if I do that, I could probably see if I can try to do 3 skits this week, maybe even 5. And that could be kind of fun to do, just short little skit videos. Gotta find some funny anecdotes from my life to make that work, though. And I wanted to do this Star Wars, like reimagined the prequels. But that I want to put a little more special effects time and effort into. That would be funny if I did. Oh man, that would be a blast. I just realizing that, like doing the Star Wars prequels, if I did those where I acted all the roles in different costumes, oh, that would be so amazing. That would be so much fun. It would be so weird. I'd have to green screen the background. I'd have to see if I could get set stills or something like that from the movies, and have myself green screen myself into some of the set designs, and have to read the lines and act them out right? Oh, that would be hilarious. That would be so epically hilarious. Oh, God. That would be so fun to do. Oh, I can't believe I never thought to do that before. Like, I was going to do animated stills. Maybe I'll just, like, I could redraw the sets as hand-drawn images and do homemade costuming and makeup. And, oh, man, that would be so freaking fun. The budget would be expensive as heck, though. And the fight scene of episode 1 would be so hilarious because I'd be fighting myself. Like, I'd act a part and then I'd have to record the opposite part of it. And it'd just be me standing in front of a green screen waving around fake lightsabers. That would be so hilarious. Oh, that would be a blast. Oh, that would be so funny. Oh, and I'd have to use like special effects to do some weird things to make it work. But oh man, that would be hilarious. Oh, good Lord, the idea of me doing like Queen Amidala costume stuff. Oh God, this is hilarious. Oh man, I bet if I did that, that would get so much, like so many hilarious reactions from people. Oh, that would be a blast. I gotta think about that now. Oh, how would I make that happen? Oh, I would have to work so hard on that. That's got to be like a year's worth of work just to make that work. Oh, man. Oh, I got to rewrite the script to episode 1. All the parts of it, so it's all an original, like, fan fiction. And then, do I do it as a full length, or do I do it as like a highlights clips, like how you can tell the whole story in half an hour instead of 3 hours? Oh man, that would be such a weird adventure. Oh, I want to do that so bad right now. I've never done anything like this before, but what I'm thinking is basically it would be, I could do voiceover, but I also have my audio recorder, which is, I don't think I might have shown this once before, but this is a Fosto, I guess is what they call it. And this is the box it came in, and this is what it does. It's this little recorder here, and it's got 2 mics on the top right here that you can see, and those record audio. So I could put it right in a pocket or strap it right here and set it to record, and it can record 2 hours worth of content. I imagine I'll be doing it in a few minutes clip, but it also has in the side of it, which I haven't figured out quite how to do yet, but it has a mic and line in port, so that I have like a $20 lav mic that I could plug into the side and clip the lav mic and have that in a pocket or something else somewhere on my body. And the lav mic, the trick with a lav mic is if it's clipped to your clothing, the chance of like my hair rubbing against it or a piece of costume rubbing against it would destroy the audio. So what I would probably think about doing is sound booth recording distinct audio and like sound effects too. So like I can have a little bit of fun with that. And man, I could do a fair amount of things with that. But like the hard part about it is getting all the costumes for the characters ready, putting them together, making sure they fit me, doing the makeup, doing the lighting, green screening behind me for all of it. And then, oh man, it would just, I'd have to write out the script for what makes the most sense for doing this. Like I would be Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Jar Jar Binks, the Queen Amidala, the Emperor, or well, I guess Senator at the time. I would be 3PO and R2-D2, which would be really hard to do. I could probably get away with R2-D2, where I could. Oh, I don't want to. Like, part of me wants to. Like, I'm already splitting. Not sure which way I want to go with this. Like, do I do it silly, or do I try to be as serious as possible to narrate the story? Like, I could easily imagine doing, like, I'd have to do Darth Maul. I could do a bald cap with horns on it. And do I act the part seriously on that? Or do I look like somebody, do I aim to be as goofy as just some weird guy in cosplay pretending to be Darth Vader or Darth Maul? And, but with like R2-D2. I could try for my voice. I think I could do some voices pretty well. I think I'd have to do a little practice to get it right. And I could do some voice tweaking in applications too. I think one of the things, like doing like a C-3PO voice, you do want to do like a tinny effect. There are ways to do that without applications, where I could talk through like a can of beans so that there's enough of a tinny echoey effect. Sort of like if you were a kid and you strung two cans together with a piece of string and you could hear the vibration that traveled across the string. So speaking into one can carried the signal to another can. Doing something like that could get me a C-3PO style voice. Doing the R2-D2 voice, there's a part of me is like, me in an R2-D2 costume would be sort of absurd, but I could build a prop R2-D2 and I could just make the beep boop sounds with my mouth, or I could use some digital effects to do that, some audio effects to do that. I could do, oh man, seeing if I could just mock together like it's gonna be homemade. It's not gonna be a professional movie. Oh, that would be so much fun though. Golly. And like I could build miniature sets for some of the sweeping landscape stuff or space scenes. Oh, that would be so much fun. It would be cheesy and low budget and just like, but that would be fun. Oh man. Now I really like, whether I'm not doing it for this week, but I may just play around with figuring out what I'll need to do in the background. Like I'll keep updating on this thought process over the next few days, but I do need to think about what I'm going to do for this week. And I think I'll probably end up doing, I'll say minimum 3 comedy skits based off of events in my life. I'll script those out for, say, tomorrow. And then plan how I'm going to film them and shoot them and any kind of face changes I need to be multiple characters. I had never thought about doing Star Wars as all the characters myself. I'm going to be Darth Maul. I'm going to be Jar Jar Binks. I'm going to be C-3PO. I'm going to be Queen Amidala, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon Jinn. Oh, man, this is hilarious. What am I going to do for Jar Jar? That's going to be the most difficult one to pull off. I'm going to have to think about it. I might end up you know what? No, well. For some of it, it might be fun to do puppets. Like maybe. I'll have to think about that one. I don't know. I'll have to think about that a little bit. I may have to go in. Yeah. I might have to do like puppets and animation. Oh man, this would be a weird project. Oh golly, this is going to be so freaking weird, but it's going to be amazing. Oh, that would be so freaking weird and fun. And my storyline for the prequels is so, oh man, episode 1. I'm just like, my brain's just thinking about the first part of it, where it's like all the main characters, except for when you go to uh, encounter young Anakin and his mother. I'm gonna have to play both of those characters too. Oh God, that's hilarious. Oh, I'm gonna have to go in and do some major digital effects to get some tweaking to the. Oh man, I might. Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna be able to do like a full movie for it, but like, would I be able to go in and like do a couple positions of a really complicated, detailed makeup job, and then point map it to sort of a digital puppet that I could use in Hit Film Express? I might be able to do something like that. I could use the point mapping to do. Oh, I could do that for like ships and landscape motion. I could do that, like in front of the green screen, have either like a bright orange or a blue, like ping pong ball on a string that's made to travel across the top of the screen to be a ship going by, or something like that. And I could maybe stop motion, like dewbacks or other creatures. And oh man, this could be so much fun. Oh, but it's going to take a lot of learning techniques, which I have no problem doing. I would have a blast doing that. It's going to take a lot of learning techniques, and like stop motion, I don't have enough experience in right now to be able to do, say, a lot about, but I could do like a stop motion monster figures, different creatures, walking across a green screen box, and then set that in with like an animated or an illustrated background, like a hand painted or an illustrated background, and then have me play all the roles, insert myself into different positions on that set. Oh man, that's a lot of work. Oh, I might do the whole movie acted out in segments. Like, I would release them as maybe 20-minute episodes. So like episode 1 would be 20, 40, 60, 80, or 20, 40, 60 times 2. So it would be at least 6 to 8 episodes long. And, doing the very first one and getting it out there may get enough interest that I could get that running through Patreon, and people would pay a Patreon to help support the cost. Well, I could Kickstart too. I could do like a Kickstarter, and I kind of run across the risk of sort of copyright. It's not copyright because the whole thing is a whole reinterpretation of all the parts of the script. But characters I'll be using, and I'll be changing many of the aspects of the characters. Oh man. And I will be changing a lot of the storyline, a lot of the world building that happens in there to fit the new way I want to build the story. Oh, and in my version of episode 1, Jango Fett appears in episode 1, and he's involved with getting back to Naboo. So he doesn't just show up in episode 2 for a one-shot, one-kill kind of character. Like, he has a role to play through the trilogy. And, oh man, yeah, I am going to have to crash course on so many techniques. Like, if I do the Zam Wesell, who was the shapeshifter bounty hunter who worked with Jango Fett, like, I'm going to have to be able to do morphing. And the hilarious part about that is, like, the start look would be me, and the finished look would be me in a different look. And oh man, that is a lot of work, but I'm so into this idea right now. And doing some of these shorts that I'm going to do this week, it probably be good practice in editing so that I can talk to myself as if I'm two people talking to each other. I might even do parts where I get me on the screen twice. So like that split the screen kind of effect where the backdrop is kept stable, but I'm stitching together me acting on one side and me acting on another side from two different clips and stitching them into a single clip. Some very creative editing process. So I'm going to have to really finalize what I want my script to look like. I'm going to have to storyboard out individual scenes, and I'm going to have to make prop lists, creature lists, costume lists, do some character design that makes it possible for me to be able to achieve different looks. Like, I'm not going to make in my current look, I'm not going to make a very good looking Queen Amidala. But with some very, very creative makeup effects, I might be able to pull some stuff off. With some puppetry, I may be able to pull off the droids and creatures. Model building, I'm going to have to be able to do some model building to do the backgrounds. I could do model building. I could do some painting and illustration. Like, it's called matte painting. It's where you paint landscapes because your set's only going to be only so deep, and what goes behind it has to be built in some way. I mean, I could do that a couple ways. I could do paintings of that, and I could probably paint skies. But I'm thinking of, when you were a kid, did you ever have to do a school project where you had to do a diorama of some book or something that you worked that you did a report on? And a diorama, I could build a mini set and record it, and then another mini set and record it, and just stack those recordings on top of each other for depth that's not actually there. Oh, this could be so weird. I've seen some of the Robot Chicken stuff. His are parody. I might see if I can get a hold of somebody who can advise me on that. The trick is, I mean, if you can do something that's a parody of something, you're sort of protected to a certain degree. But there's also the fact that if you did it in a way that you didn't earn any money from doing so, you're also protected to a certain degree. Now, I can do a reimagined. I can do a reimagined script for all of that, but if I just read the script, that's one possibility of what I could do. But as long as I'm not making any money from it, that's fine. But in order to afford doing set construction, matte paintings, backdrops, costumes, and just the sheer amount of time and effort that would go into doing this, oh man, I mean, that'd get expensive quickly. But I feel like I could pull off a lot with a very little. Like if I do a lot of set and costume and prop building myself, I've got the access to the makerspace, I've got the sewing machines. The cost of the material just to do the costumes, like I feel like I might be able to just hunt down thrift store. It sucks that it's not Halloween. But I mean, this may take long enough to get organized that Halloween could roll around and I can go hunt down in every thrift store that I can find. I can contact the 501st. They're a fan. I should talk to the people I know in the 501st. They're a fan-based organization where people build their own stormtrooper costumes and stuff, and they do charity events and stuff like that. I can talk to some of them and see if I can get some advice. Anybody who's got spare costumes that I could borrow. Oh, that would be such a blast. And like I feel like I can include a few other people into it if they want like cameos or guest appearances. I still think half the I still think half the fun of this would be to play all the parts myself. But like if I could get a hold of the 501st and find a few other people who want to be involved in it, I could stretch it out a little bit further. But to me, that seems sort of like less fun than me playing all the parts myself. And I'd have to plan it right too. Like if I'm yeah, I'm going to have to shave to get Queen Amidala with a beard. I could do that. That would be hilarious. It would be so much of a great, just fun joke. But like, there's a part of me like legitimately like sees this as a challenge. Could I make this workable? Like, I can make prosthetic makeup. It's one of the things I did on the Roving Jack channel as a tutorial at one point. I know how to make Hollywood prosthetic makeup using nothing but unflavored gelatin and like a dollar store makeup kit. I could make myself look like a zombie. I could give myself Klingon brow ridges, which, I mean, considering the size of my forehead, I probably should at some point. But I could do alien makeup, and then do a makeup job over top of that. And if I'm able to do something like that, I might be able to do I need to get a life cast of my own head, and then I can do sculpts over that and see if I can achieve a realistic looking Queen Amidala, because she does a lot of like face paint, like a white face with red lipstick and weird headdress arrangements. Like, I might be able to make that work with the right level of Hollywood makeup tricks. It'd be a little bit harder to pull off a Shmi Skywalker, so Anakin's mother might be a little difficult. A lot of aliens. I could pull off a Qui-Gon Jinn. I could do a Obi-Wan Kenobi. But if I'm doing any filming where I'm going to do a Qui-Gon Jinn and have a beard, but I'm going to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi and a Queen Amidala where they both don't have beards, and an Anakin and whoever else, like all of that, that's going to be like, I'm going to have to schedule it so that all the beardless stuff happens for the week or so that I don't have a beard. Talk like Yoda? Perhaps I may. I mean, I could work on doing my impressions too to see if I could do those even better than I currently can. Oh man, there are a lot of ways I could play with that. Getting a little practice in doing some of these shorts that I'll probably do this week. That'll get me a little more sense of the amount of work that I'll have to put into this. Yeah. I need to do a little practice to figure out the things I need to do this. But the idea just has me so thoroughly excited. Oh, that would be so fun. Oh man. And I'll have to do a little dabbling with stop motion and puppetry to like, I'm pretty sure I could build some puppets that I could use for some of this. Like, the question in my brain though is like, how silly do I want some of this to look? And overall, I really feel like I want to aim for not silly at all, with the realization that some of it's really just going to come across as just so homemade that it's going to be kind of silly. But like, I want it to be accepting the fact that that's going to happen, not making that the point. Like, I could do a Robot Chicken equivalent where it's me in costumes instead of action figures, but I don't want it to be like that goofy. Like, if at some point, trying to remember in the first movie, episode 1, if there's like those dewbacks, those giant lizards that people rode in the deserts, or banthas, the sand people ride on the horned, woolly, mammoth-looking ox creature, the giant yak. Like, if they have those, like, I could do them as stop motion. I could actually do them as costumes too. That gets expensive though. I'll have to really, really think about what's the best way to pull off the most I can achieve with those effects. Jar Jar Binks is probably going to be one of the harder ones to do. Like, I'll even have to go back and watch the prequels a couple times. So I'm focusing primarily just on the first one. I'll have to figure out how to, like, the droids for the droid army, C-3PO and R2-D2, they're all going to have to be puppetry, I think. Because I want them to look good enough that they're not me in face paint. Don't face paint me gold with a skin cap on so that it's a smooth head and make me metal looking. Like, I don't want it to be that goofy. But like, if I were to do something like a giant reptile or a giant woolly mammoth or a giant yak-looking creature, I might be able to do that with puppetry. But when I do something like that with puppetry, playing around with puppetry for something like that would be tricky. I can get some of like the thin rubber foam and cut it and glue it into the right shapes. And if I do that, it'll come off looking very, it'll look very much like Miss Piggy does. Like, I can do a puppet Yoda too. Or I can do a makeup Yoda and just play with the size. Oh, that's tricky. I don't know. What makes the most sense for something like that? Like, The trick with like those puppets is like you can get something that looks like Miss Piggy or Kermit the Frog or Fozzie Bear, and I could use puppets like that for some of the animals and the creatures and the aliens and the robots. They don't look particularly really spectacular, but they would get the idea across. But I could also really put the effort in and make a Yoda puppet that looks like Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. I could make a really good looking puppet. I could do a really good looking creature puppets too. It's a lot more extra work. It's a lot more time consuming to get it right. And the other part of it is like, if I'm doing this, then the sets that I'm building, the creatures that I'm building, the costumes that I'm building, the props that I'm building, it's going to take up a lot of space. I'm going to have to clear out my storage unit and use it pretty much just to store everything to do this. I would do it in a heartbeat for it too. Do this project right. But like, yeah, just like I have to figure out, and I guess the only way to figure it out for sure is do some testing and mini projects to see what's going to be involved in some of these things. So if I like do some tests, do some simple skit videos where I do prosthetic makeup and just get some practice at it and see where the limits are of what I can achieve with it. And when I get that figured out, I can then do some puppet building and see like what are the limits of what I can achieve with that. And set building, I think I can build mini sets and use green screen for it. I mean, it's gonna not be as necessary. I still want to try to achieve as good a look as I can. So I'm gonna talk with a friend of mine who does miniature wargaming, where they build their own landscapes and battlegrounds. And I know a couple people who have done some miniature train yards, and they build the landscapes for those. Those I can build whole landscapes for the backdrops on stuff like this. That would be really cool to be able to achieve. I have access to 3D printers at the Makerspace, laser cutters. I think with a little bit of tinkering around with styrofoam, some glue, some paint, epoxies. I'm going to have to maybe see if I can get one of my good friends, a former housemate of mine, to give me a little like tutorial on miniature painting for miniature games, and see if I can get like, he does some decent detailed miniature figures, and with the level of detail he gets from his miniature wash, like you do washes of colors over surfaces. Oh, I'm going to have to tap his little bit of knowledge, and I can pay him as a consultant if he wants to help me out on it, I imagine. I'd love to help him out a little bit too. And I can give him some credit because I know he wants to potentially do some of that creative artistic stuff. And I know he's sort of surrendered to the idea that maybe he can't do anything with it. And if this gets as much attention as I imagine this project could get, this may get him enough of a reputation for being a consultant and potentially working a little bit on this with me, that this could help him take off for his graphic design and art and miniature painting and landscape design skills. Oh man, this is going to be a fun project. This is going to be fun. I don't know how I'm going to figure out how to do. I may have to see if I can talk to some of my voice actor friends and see if I can get some pointers on how to do female voices. If I'm going to play all the roles. See, that's such a weird idea, but it's so unique. I feel like if I really stick to as much of that as I can manage, I don't know how I'm going to pull off a young Anakin's face on this face, but if I can pull it off, it's such a unique take on the idea that, I mean, it'll be a real blast. I have to contact the 501st people I know and figure out what kind of leeway I get with. I know, like, I've seen people in Star Wars costumes they've made, even to a certain degree, of certain characters, done in music videos, that they post the videos to YouTube. I don't know if those are monetized. I would highly doubt it. And I don't know what kind of, like, tiptoeing around that you have to do to not get in trouble. Like, if my channel is supported by subscribers and I produce one of these videos, does that walk into a little trap that I have to be careful about? I don't know. I would think they'd be okay enough to let me play with, but not profit from Star Wars content. Oh man, it's gonna be a weird experiment. I'm going to immediately, when I'm done here tonight, run over to a writing app I've got on here and just start putting together this script. Like, I wrote out my idea. Like, part of the reason I wanted to do this was I had ideas of how, and basically a rough outline of what the script of episode 1 could have been if they made some certain changes to it. And that's sort of like, it builds the story and the universe in a way that I think is a fascinating way to play with that story. So I have the basic outline and understanding of how I want the aspects of the story to go. I even have a rough draft of what the whole script should look like. I have to do some tweaking to some of it. But the individual scenes, the positions they're filmed from, the effects in the background, the set positioning, and where events take place, some of that may end up being dictated by what I can achieve. Like, how much can I achieve with miniature sets and matte painting and puppetry, and like, how much can I really do with that? And then, like, based off of that, oh man, I'm also realizing that there are some aspects of this. Like, when I go out traveling this summer, I need to have a script, possibly for all 3 of them, worked out. Because if I'm going through southern Utah, I'm going to pass through some gorgeous desert landscape. And I should take that opportunity to know what I need to film for my scene lists. So desert sky, desert landscape, rock formations, some of the forests that I'll pass through. I could film, and I'd have to know, like, in this scene, am I going to be panning right, left, or drop down from the sky into the middle of a forest kind of scene? I need to know those, and like, I need to know the script for those scenes so that I can film those sets, so that I can green screen them in behind me. Oh man. And if I'm gonna have to interact with some of the scenes, I'm gonna have to know, like, I'm gonna have to figure out, like, plants and other props. But that is stuff I'm gonna end up having to build, and I'll figure that part out. But yeah, landscapes before I go traveling in the summer is important. So where is this all being set? What kind of landscapes do I need to pay attention to? Can I get some of those B-roll shots and stuff like that? Oh man. It's going to be interesting, and I'm going to have to get a little more familiar with a couple of the cameras that I got from my thrift store. They only shoot in 720p, but they have good zoom. They record video. I'm going to have to get a couple of external hard drives for all the resources that I'm going to be working with too. Like if I'm going to have to know how long to stay on a certain set, like a landscape shot. Take that shot, save that. Well, honestly, maybe I can pull off a 1080p. Because if I'm stacking things, I could take it. That'd be tricky. Taking a long panoramic shot of a landscape, I could take them as still images, and I think some of my cameras do get a 1080p still image. And I can take those still images and stitch them together like the matte paintings. And so like I can make a huge landscape that as I use the after digital effects to pan across, I'm just panning across the still images. I'll have to figure out if there's like any scenes where there's enough motion in the background that can't be done as inserting foreground motion objects. There are a lot of possibilities. This is a big film project, though. This is not some subtle, simple thing. Part of me wonders if applying certain filters, like if you've ever seen like there's a movie called Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. I think it's similar to the movie Sin City. And a few other movies like 300, the one about the Spartans, is similar. They have this filter that they apply over top of to change the look of the sets and the actors and the effects. And it gives it a sort of a cartoony effect, not quite cartoony, but like an effect that twists it. But that effect can also be useful in helping hide imperfections in the costumings and the set and the props. And I wonder if doing that is a possibility. I don't know that I want to do a lot of that. It depends. I guess it's going to really depend on some of the test runs through some of the skits that I try work out. Yeah, I'll spend some time tonight figuring out a couple scripts, 2 or 3 scripts for skits tonight, and then I still haven't uploaded my improved or my book blurbs and my plot outlines for my fiction writing yet to Tumblr, but I will try to do that today or tomorrow. And putter around with the script for the Star Wars prequels. I'm super excited about playing with that. Because it's a project that's been on my mind for a few years. I think like 2 or 3 years ago, I was talking about it with my housemate. And that's because it had been an idea that had been on my mind for 3 or 4 years prior to that. So it's the better part of 6 to 8 years that this has been sitting in the back of my brain. And I mean, I built the script out probably 6 years ago for all 3 of the prequels, the rough scripting. this happens here, this is how the story progresses from this point, this is what this means, and it's important at this point later in the story, but not camera angles, not set direction, not full dialogue scripting. So I'm going to have to really go over that pretty quickly. And it'll be fun to just update that project as I'm thinking about it this week. But I will try to get the 3 mini skits up by the end of the week. And then next week is a board game. So, yeah. Oh, I can't believe I'm going to set myself on the course of a film project this complicated. I'm gonna have to go back and watch like the making of the original Star Wars movie, because they were on a shoestring budget. Their budget for the original Star Wars movie was like a film student's budget, and they did a lot with that. So I'm gonna have to take a lot of my inspiration from that. Oh man, there's so much to think about and plan for that. And I'm going to have to learn skills that I don't currently have in the intervening time as I work my way towards doing this. I may do some test runs of scenes to get the feel right. I feel like it's gonna, like, my acting is probably not the best acting in the world, but I need to get comfortable doing acting in front of the camera. And I think that's easier to do in front of a camera than, like, I did some drama club in high school, and I was set design and art, and I was not stand in front of the audience and act. So as long as it's a camera, I might actually be okay. But with that still in mind, like, I can write a song, but I'm not that great at singing a song. I can write a script. I'm not sure my acting is up to what it needs to be for this. I may have to do a little bit of practice. And it might be fun to do some practice scenes, both with without makeup and sometimes practicing with a little bit of makeup as sort of a lead up to this idea. And just like, so I can review it and look back on it and say like, oh yeah, that doesn't look quite right. That's not what I'm like. I'm director, actor, and costume design and makeup and screenwriter all in one for this one. So like, I like any area where I haven't polished my craft a little bit, it's gonna show, and it's okay. Like, if this shows as a weird idea, a weird project that's not, really great by the end of the time that I do it, I'm okay with that. I'm mainly trying to communicate my idea, but I'd like to do an honest effort to do this as well as I can. I'm going to have to do some review of George Lucas and how they made the movie. I'm going to have to see about some of the miniature and prop and set building things out there. And I'm going to have to look in on Jim Henson's puppetry stuff. I might even have to get one of those, like, skin suits, like a green skin suit, so that I can stand behind and do some marionette-style puppeting to larger scale puppets, and then green screen myself out of it. Yeah. Some weird things to work on. Yeah, I mean, I might be able to do a little stop motion, some puppetry, some costuming, landscape filming or uh, construction with photographs, a lot of green screening. See if I can figure out some digital effects through. I know there are techniques for making lightsaber blades in hit film, and oh man, I may have to figure out where I'm gonna film too. Like I need space to move and do stuff. I know I'm just gonna like just doing a green screen with a big enough space that an actor can walk across the screen a certain distance. I'm gonna need probably a whole room with no furniture in it for a couple shoots at least. I mean, I can do a little practice in scripting out some of those scenes to minimize long walking scenes without a plan for handling that. I might also be able to see, just contact a few places in the area and see if I can find some long hallways that I can drape a piece of green screen fabric over sections of that hallway for walking scenes. I might even, I live in enough of an area where I can go find local parks and walk through the woods for outdoor scenes. I'm pretty sure I can find a local field to walk through. Cityscapes are going to be more model builds. And internal building scenes, like a hangar bay. Well, there are a couple airports nearby. I'm not familiar well enough with some of the tricks to contacting places like that. And like, will they charge you for using a space for a day for something like that? Oh, I don't know. Some of this is going to just absolutely take just chutzpah. I think I'm using that word right. I'm going to have to just be so bold as to walk up to some people and say, like, would you be willing to let us film in this location for an afternoon? And I may have to get somebody behind the camera. And every time I shoot a scene with more than one character, I'm going to play all the characters. That's a lot of work. I'm going to shoot that scene 15 to 20 times. Man, but this could be all kinds of fun. And if the first one comes off rough, that's fine. If I get better each time, that's even better. Man, this could be fun. I hadn't planned on thinking this much into this topic tonight. I had no idea what I was going to be talking about for video filming, but I'm enthusiastic about some of this. All right, so I'll figure out what I need to do for practice skits this week, because that can actually get me a lot of practice on some of the skills I need to play with. But I also need to try to make sure I don't make it too much work for myself. I've got a lot of things on my plate for the next several months. I got to figure out what makes the most sense for me to do. But any little project where, like, each time I do one of those skit videos, it's like a 5 to 8 minute skit, I can add in another special effect and learn how to apply it. That could be useful. I'm wondering if, like, doing some of my video editing already, I've learned how to do like the police protection blur that follows your face as you move. I might be able to put alien heads on myself walking around if I just put the right markers on my face and head. That seems like a cheap way to do that, though. I don't really want to do it that way. I want to see if I can pull it off with special effects makeup. I want to do as much as I can with practical effects. So puppetry, makeup, set and prop design, miniatures, some stop motion. Some stop motion. Get that figured out. I know a guy I talked to for one of the maker spaces in South Dakota. I'll have to go back and see if I can review those videos, because he used the CNC device to build sets for an activity night. And they were really good quality sets. He built one to look like the interior of a spaceship. And trying to remember, I think some of it was vacuum formed styrene sheet. Some of it was, I want to say, carved foam. And I know he did a fair amount with CNC'd MDF. And the pieces can be pulled apart and stacked up and moved in a pickup truck. But when put together right, they were modular pieces that you could rearrange in new positions. So you could change the room shape and design by just moving pieces around. Pretty sure that's what he was doing for a lot of that. And that was done, he built a room-sized set for that. And that one took a couple months to build, honestly. But it was a small space that fit inside a room, but he had like all four walls. So with filming, it would be something a little bit more like, you know, you do a three-sided room, maybe with a ceiling and a floor arrangement too. But I feel like what you need to do for that is do the walls, and you can green screen anything above the top of the characters' heads. And honestly, if you're in an environment, you may not even have to build a full wall. If the character's not moving enough for it to matter, all you need is like vertical space to fit behind the close-up shots of a head. Yeah, there's some ways I can make this work. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a lot of work. It's gonna be a lot of work. This may not see fruition for 2 years. With all the other things I'm working on at the same time, if I travel over to other countries next year for summer, and I'm working on some of my other projects right now, like in all that time, I may not be able to put a lot into doing a lot. So I might actually be able in the next year be able to pull off the first maybe 20 minutes I have to go back and rewatch episode 1. Okay, I think I'm rehashing and babbling at this point, so I need to go take care of a few things. I will see you tomorrow with a better understanding of what I have to work with. Take care and have a good night.